the Central Tablelands Weeds Authority. Unfortunately, I was intending to be there present, but circumstances have meant I can't. I think it's going to be physically easier if I hand the chairman to someone else who's physically present in the room. So I would move that I move the chairmanship to Bruce Reynolds. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. All in favour? So Bruce, if you can take the reins for this meeting, that'd be greatly appreciated, being physically in the room.
Thank you, Chair. Happy to. So we'll start with apologies and attendance via AVL. So for a start, there is
apologies from Iris, Dorset and Stephen Ring.
And we also have an application from Member Katie Graham, Member Ben Fry, Member Andrew McKibben and Member Eric Mahoney to attend via audio-visual link. So I assume we do those as all as one. So do I have a mover for everything?
Yep.
I can move from remotely. So Member Golfer and seconder. You can second it online, Katie. So Member Graham has seconded that. Any discussion? If not, all in favour? Aye.
Yep.
And carried. Now to acknowledgement of country, and Central Tablelands Weeds Authority acknowledges the Wiradjuri people, the traditional custodians of the lands where we work and live. CTWA celebrates the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters of the New South Wales Central Tablelands. Now, members of the public are advised that the proceedings of this meeting, other than confidential matters, will be recorded and made publicly available on the CTWA website, and persons attending the meeting should note that their conduct is being recorded. To disclosures of interest, and there is a recommendation there in 3 parts. Do I have a mover for the disclosures of interest? Member Fry has moved that way. Do I have a seconder? Member McKibben?
I question whether we have to have
actually,
motion on that. We have to
just
have, it's normal that people you ask if anyone has a pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest and to disclose it.
Correct.
Number 1.
Sorry, I just read it as recommendation.
I know it shouldn't be. It's something we need to change, Tim, in our format.
So does anyone have any matters to disclose within the business paper this evening?
No.
If there is none, it's noted that there are no disclosures. We do not have to move and second that and vote on it. Item number 5, governance program, finance, the quarterly budget review statement. There's a recommendation there that council notes the quarterly budget review statement for the period ending the 31st of March 2025 and adopts the proposed budget amendments. Do I have a mover for that? Member Fry has moved that way. Member Golfer has seconded it. Discussion with regard to the QBRS, or do you want some commentary from me? Member McKibben.
And I'm not sure if Member Graham has the same issues as me. I received the QBRS at 3:42 p.m. yesterday afternoon. And I had meetings in Oberon from 3 o'clock, and we had a meeting last night that finished very late, 12 a.m. this morning. We had a 7:30 meeting about the appointment of of who we should be interviewing for the general manager, and I've had cattle work since. I have not actually had an opportunity to review the quarterly budget review statement, and I don't think that 24 hours, the production of a QBRS and the transmission to members 24 hours before an extraordinary meeting in the circumstances is appropriate.
So at this point, your concerns will be noted, and you do have the option to vote against and have it recorded if you so.
Well, I don't have the option to abstain, and if I abstain, it's basically voting against it.
Correct.
I'm not saying that I may not agree with it. I just, I I always like to read my business papers and go through them in detail, as most people know. I haven't had the opportunity with this one. Katie, I'm assuming you've had some opportunity to do it or not.
I've had a look at it. I haven't done it in an enormous amount of detail. Yes.
Because
You're
you're
probably
partly the
tired
same.
today too.
I am. Well, Bruce actually made a comment this morning that I look dreadful.
Thank you.
But
Please,
no,
please
that
remember
I
this
look.
is being recorded.
Yes, I realise that, but because yes, but yes. Look, through you, that Mr. Chair. I suppose if you can satisfy me that you're happy with it and other members are happy with it, I'm prepared to vote for it, but it's on that basis only I can vote for it.
Could I make a suggestion with regard to the recommendation, and you may wish to move this way? And I'm very much trying to do this on the hop because I was unaware of these concerns. Within the recommendation that we create a point 2 that the QBRS must be delivered to members moving forward 5 working days out from a meeting of the county council. Would that satisfy you along those words, Mr. Member McKibben?
Well, I thought business papers were meant to be delivered at least a minimum of 3, and that would have included the QBRS, or am I wrong under the code of meeting practice?
No,
General Manager?
3 days is correct, Andrew.
I'm happy
So-
to amend that to 3
So
days.
we haven't even had the 3 days. I know you can raise material in extraordinary general meeting, but you're meant to still give appropriate notice, and I think the 3 days applies unless it's urgent or emergency, and arguably a QBRS is not urgent or emergency because it's meant to have been prepared. Well, if it's 31st of March and there's been a month to prepare it. Anyway, I'm happy. I'm happy for that change, but it doesn't rectify the current situation, and I'm not sure that it takes it much further than the statutory requirement for 3 days. Yes, we get an extra 2 days, but if I had it 3 days before, I probably would have had the opportunity to look at it in some detail. So if we'd even stuck to the statutory period, I would have been okay.
Just
And I'm
before
sure Katie's probably the same. But yeah.
I just wanted to note, it is actually a legal requirement that the video be on for Member Fry, but I do want to note that he is unwell. And so just to note that why he's not on video at the moment is because he is quite unwell at this point in time, because it is actually a statutory requirement to have him on. So that's why the video is blank, and it is noted because of his health at the moment.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, apologies.
We now have an extra member as well, and the health of his daughter as well.
Observing status.
Just was more giving you leave not to have your video camera on if you had to have it off. Coming back to the QBRS, because time is important.
Yeah.
And I did want to, quickly run through it for members.
Yes, if you could.
So the 1 page, it's 2 pages, is on pages 19 and 20.
So I'm confused here, Mr. Chairman, if I could just for a minute. We have the QBRS, but we then have it in confidential business papers.
So the reason, and you shouldn't be divulging that it's in confidential, but the reason being that there is some confidential information within the confidential business paper. It's actually the whole entire QBRS, which does have some private details of individuals, which would breach the Privacy Act if we did actually have that in the public section. So it's just more detailed background. If any member wants to ask a question about a particular area, you can actually see where it stands at this point in time. Member McKibben?
So what's the status of Appendix 1?
Which is Appendix 1. This is
Appendix 1 is the QBRS.
which is on page 19. Correct. There are additional documents which deep dive into the QBRS in the confidential section. Does that make
Okay, so
sense?
Appendix 1 is non-confidential. That's what we're saying.
Correct. Because there is no identification of individuals.
That's where I was confused when going through the business papers. Fine, thank you.
So the important point to note is at the end of the third quarter, the County Council is currently sitting at minus $50,793. It's however projected if all invoices are paid and on the current expenditure pathway of what's in the budget, that we will end up having a surplus of about $33,000 at the end of the financial year. The reason being one of the big invoices and this is public, is that Blaney Shire Council has only been invoiced for $10,000. So from a cash flow point of view, as in where there's nearly $100,000 worth of works, roadside works that have been undertaken, as in it's in the 90s that's in the expenditure, hence why there's a big discrepancy at this point in time. But it is noted in the QBRS that has gone up to $99,006, the roadside program, and there is an adjustment there of $58,916. So that's one of the adjustments. Looking through, Crown Land Agency work is another forestry agency work is another adjustment. The original budget was for $20,000. That has been increased by $2,264 as there was more work undertaken than what was actually thought that was undertaken. So that amount has been increased. That leads to a total increase in that section of $61,180. Before you get too excited though, and we'll come to some more grant funding firstly. So the grant funding, the WAP program, $330,000 was the budget. The County Council has obtained $376,017, which is, I think it's 14% higher, correct? Yes. So that's also an increase in revenue. So that takes that total revenue in that section up by $46,017. Not all of that money, however, will be used by the County Council. Some of that is for roadside signage, and I think that's mentioned later on, but I will come to that as we go down through the QBRS. There are some other minor adjustments. Profit on the sale of assets, being motor vehicles. The original budget had it at $30,000. This is an actual. The vehicles were sold for $41,000, so there's an adjustment there of $11,000. With regard to other revenue, insurance rebate, the original budget was $65,000. That has been reduced by $52,944 because of the settlement of a workers' compensation claim. That therefore changes total revenue under the business management program, a reduction of $41,944 in expected income. So overall, I think that's the so that's the adjust. So that was the first quarter adjustment. Sorry, I made an error there. That was taken out in the first quarter. So there's actually no adjustment. So total income has increased by $107,197 projected income for the County Council as of the end of the third quarter. Coming to expenditure, unless there are any questions on the income or revenue side. There is silence in the room and online. So we'll move to the expenses side. And most of the expenses are as stated. I've just got to try and work out because it doesn't list the first quarter and the current quarter, but I think the left-hand column is the current quarter, next door to the original budget. So coming down to weed biosecurity risk management program, biosecurity compliance, I think that $20,000, I stand to be corrected, General Manager, but that is for the signage on the roadside signage, which was part of the agreement. And that roadside signage is not just for this County Council. I think it's for everyone in the Central Tablelands. Is that correct, General Manager?
Mudgee and Cow are involved as well.
Right. So within the LLS area, a number of the councils, so I assume Orange and Cabon aren't involved in that program. Okay, thank you. So that changes that expenditure by $20,000. There's also for professional services, which is accounting services, which was a resolution of council last Friday, to increase professional services to, I think it was 40,000.
40,000.
But there are other professional services outside of the accounting professional services, because this is a collective, and as divulged before in the confidential section, you can actually delve down into the different professional services and what's being charged out. So the yes, professional services. So total expenditure has also increased by $49,000 on the previous quarter projections. Therefore, the operating result from continuing operations, therefore there's a net change of $58,197. So the extra revenue minus the extra expenditure gives you that $58,197. I believe the QBRS, I don't have it in front of me here, the previous quarter was a negative projection. It may well have been the 19,000, I'm not 100% sure, but with that change in the net operating result, that has taken it from a negative to a projected positive of $33,292. But as I also stated for this quarter, given we also do accrual accounting, that this quarter is projected as a negative $50,793 for the quarter. So just to note, but if everything is equal and in the next 6 weeks or thereabouts, the rest of the remaining part of the financial year, the entity should report at least a $33,000 net profit. It may be slightly higher. Again, it's on assumptions of every area meets the budget demand. And I'm aware, for example, with the members' payments, because of the election and not having members for a couple of months, and also the resignation of 2 members, I think it was, that there will be some savings within that members component as an example. So, but there may be another component that actually does run over a bit. I can't remember which component but there were a couple that, and including staff wages, because of the resignation of several staff members over this financial year. The current expenditure on wages and salaries and other costs associated with the staff is a bit higher than what is projected to the end of the 3rd quarter. I'm expecting that to come back in close to budget by the end of the 4th quarter, but again, it may be slightly over. So there's going to be some give and take in the budget on where we sit, but reasonably confident around that $30,000 mark at this point in time, unless some other unforeseen circumstance occurs. Are there any questions with regard to that? And these are the explanations are listed underneath that second page in the 3rd quarter recommendations. So there are 5 there in the recommendations with regard to Blaney, forestry, government grants, biosecurity compliance, and professional services. Member McKibben.
Thank you, Bruce. Professional services. So you're saying that obviously includes services other than our accounting, bookkeeping.
Correct.
And that's gone up 57.5% variation from our original projected of spend on that.
Correct. Whereas most
to
of that,
87,700, right?
Because of the recommendation that was passed by the County Council last Friday, which indicated to increase by, I think it was $29,000. So that's pretty well most of the adjustment. The other parts of it, including software, as an example, are not included. As far as I'm aware, unless the general manager knows anything else, they haven't changed on the original projection. So it's just the accounting services that have been required that the County Council approved for the 3rd quarter QBRS on Friday.
So just going up to the, is it me again? Roadside spraying program. Am I reading this incorrectly? Under the roadside, and you may have mentioned this, under the expenses, the roadside spraying program, have we not been charged by the Blaney, Lithgow and Oberon contractors?
We
Or is that is that under the Labor BX, Labor LX, Labor? Oh, well, again, we've only got Bathurst.
To Blaney saying that they wouldn't pay the invoice until the work is completed.
So that's correct for Blaney, but there is also, so if you look on the right-hand column in the expenses, that is the projected expenses. I do understand, and I am a little confused because
why haven't the other contractors charged us? And do we know that those are going to be the amounts we are charged, or it could be more or less? Are we absolutely certain that the projected amounts of Blaney 81,000, Lithgow 142, and Oberon 51? We know 51 is not going to be right, but I'm assuming the additional 50,000 came in after the 31st of March. I thought it came in just before that.
That is an unknown. Again, I did not do the QBRS. I'm just trying to explain the QBRS. There may well be some issues with the regard, particularly as you said, the 51,000. You can now see the Blaney contractor's contribution, because as far as I was aware, and I did see them when I had a look at reviewed the QBRS on the weekend, that those payments had been made, but I am unsure whether they came out before the 31st of March or were paid after the 31st of March, but they are in the accounts. And as you used as an example with Blaney, I think between the two programs, it was nearly at the 100,000. It was 90 something $1,000, but there was a little bit of work, then to be corrected, done after the 31st of March in Blaney Shire, as an example.
Yes, correct.
So they are there, and in the final account, which you can, within the QBRS, as in the negative $50,793, they are appearing there. They're not appearing in the final quarter, though, as in the revised budget. So I'm not quite sure what has happened there.
That's right.
In the final budget. And again, it's a good pickup, because those three should be there as the final expenditure to counter the, which may therefore give us a different outcome. But on what I saw on the weekend, we should have been close to break even, if not slightly in the black. So I'm not quite sure if there's another adjustment. I'm just flipping back up to see. So yeah, in the revised third quarter budget for roadside, if you go up to Blaney as an example,
So what page are we looking at now?
The page number 18. It currently sets for Oberon as an example at $39,932, which should be around about $105,000. So
right.
I'm not quite sure why. And again, with the limited time, and I have been flat out today, so on other matters, that there are some further issues that may need further adjustment in this QBRS. So there is the option, we can, given these issues have arisen, that we could defer to the next council meeting in June to check the adjustments, if the members so desire. If I have a mover to defer.
I've got some more questions, if I could.
Well,
If they can be answered, maybe not. But if they, I'm still trying to understand the forestry one. I thought the original projection was 20,000, and now we're saying we're making an adjustment from 18,000 to by 2,000, whatever it is, for additional spraying, 2,264, which is over 20,000. And we were told in a meeting that 20,000 was their limit. So is it 264 extra we've received, or?
So I can answer that, but the general manager may also have some commentary on it. In looking at the expenditure on the weekend,
Yes.
with the person that does do the QBRS, I noted that we'd already potentially overspent on forestry. General manager,
In consultation with forestry.
yes. So
are they going to pay us the?
Yes, they are going to
additional
pay us the $22,000, not the previous $20,000 that was budgeted.
I'm just quickly coming back up again, Member McKibben, as in don't forget the revised third quarter budget would be an accrual basis.
Not a cash basis.
Not a cash basis. So, for example, chemical sales, which I understand are sitting at 28,000. The revised budget, so this is going up to the top of table 1, are sitting at $17,250. So I suspect it's from an accrual basis, but I'm not sure why there are 0 bases then in expenditure, which is a very good question, for roadside spraying, because that should be on an accrual basis.
I'm assuming we just pay all the contractors in Q4, the whole amount. Don't make progressive payments. Is that right, General Manager?
The contract with the people on the panel, the 3 of them, it indicates that we will pay within 30 days of them lodging invoices.
And I take it they do that progressively.
They do.
Right. But this is indicating we've paid them nothing.
That is correct. Hence why I'm suggesting that maybe we defer this item for final consideration and check out these issues, given that you and Member Graham have had very limited time. Myself has had very limited time looking at the final QBRS because of other matters that we actually defer to. Is it the 21st of June meeting? 20th of June. Sorry, we're going to go on a Saturday. If I have a mover and a seconder, because I think we're going to go around in circles here. And so I have a mover.
I want to ask a question.
Yes.
Member
Cullen.
Invoicing, where are we up to? Do we know exactly where we have and what we've got to collect? Like to come into this? Or
do you want to answer, General Manager, or do you want me to?
We were late with the invoicing of the roadside program. Of the aerial program. The program ended, and that aligned with some staff that would have been required to do the reconciliation of the program and then for the invoicing to commence. That employee actually returned a week and a bit later than predicted. So we were late with the invoicing, and that was the primary reason for the delay in the development of the QBRS.
do we have any idea what that amount is?
It's a couple of $100,000. But 50% of it was paid up front, so it's probably about half that amount, isn't it, General Manager?
Yeah. Look, we won't have it a guess at that. I think your suggestion that we defer until 20 June to address that accurately is a better result.
And potentially come back with some answers for your questions, Member McKibben. Sorry, Member McKibben, you have another question?
So I'm assuming, I think you said that forestry's been invoiced for the roads. Bathurst been invoiced?
Yes.
Lithgow?
Yes.
Blaney?
Yes.
But that was done this week.
Sorry.
Has it been done this week yet or not?
It has not been raised as yet, Blaney, but it's indicated in here as outstanding.
Yes.
What about Oberon? Have we been invoiced for both amounts?
Yes.
So the additional 50,000 as well?
Yes.
So that's okay, right?
The only change in that was the delay, the long delay, but the other point was that Blaney Council had that provision that they won't pay until all work is complete. We have invoiced councils at an earlier date on some occasions.
Right. So if I can just move to enforcement fines and costs, the original budget was 15,000.
Chair, could I just ask a quick question?
Yes, sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
So I just want to confirm that the principal contractors are paid progressively on receipt of invoice. Is that what occurs?
Yes.
Okay. And subsequently, I'm not sure what our capacity is to hold that operating cost if we're not also invoicing the member councils. at a similar time frame. Like I can understand why councils may want to wait until all works are completed before they'll pay an invoice. How do we cope with if all 4 program councils elect not to pay until June? How are we travelling paying contractors progress payments until that payment comes in?
Member, this the change occurred from the MOU to the service level agreement, where we were requesting that councils pay a fee at the outset of the program when it commences.
Yep.
But that changed after year 1, that we were invoicing them an estimated fee based on the prior year's results. So when we changed the SLA, one of the councils, as I've mentioned, had indicated to us that they were not going to pay until all the work was completed on the roadside. And that's only one of the councils. The others have continued without change. So as soon as it's raised, they do pay.
Okay, all right. I appreciate that advice, and also appreciate the practice of it. I think it's the right thing to be doing is paying the contractors as we receive their invoices. Their capacity to carry large amounts of money probably isn't there. So, yep, I just appreciate that bit of background, Dean. So thank you.
But to answer your question, though, Member Mahoney, it does impact on the cash flow or cash position of this entity if you start paying out several $100,000 to contractors before councils have paid in. I think Blaney Shire was the only one that has elected to not pay up front. The other councils have. So at this point in time, it's nearly 100,000, or at least 90,000 out of that particular program, because there is $10,000 in another program with Cadia. So yeah, there is an outstanding, but Blaney Council will pay. It's just that as in cash flow wise, it does impact on the amount of money that we can have invested at any one point in time.
Can I suggest that you talk to the mayor up there and see if you can get things to move along?
I said, don't worry, the general manager is already aware the invoice is coming. That's why I was wondering if it had been sent. As in, he was informed yesterday. So anyway, as in, I do suggest though that we look at potentially deferring if there is a mover for a deferral, because there's also time constraints with 2 councillors in this room that do have a general purpose council meeting not long away. So I'm very conscious of not trying to keep them for too long, particularly as one has to drive across town. So do I have a mover and a seconder for a deferral? Member Fry and Member Graham have moved that way. Any further discussion with regard to that? But I do, and one quickly point, please go through and write out your questions, and then we can take them back to the author of the QBRS so that she may be able to answer those questions for the 21st, so we can have actually written answers for those questions.
Just send them to Tim, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so let's move on to the next item, given we have all those in favour of a deferral? Aye.
Yep.
Unanimous. Okay. Let's move on to the next item. At the top.
A series of investment reports, Bruce.
Okay, so I was just going to see if the councillors are happy to move all the investment reports as an omnibus motion to consider. I think there's 5 months worth of investment reports.
December, January, February, 4.
Thought there was March as well.
March is in there as well. Sorry, yes.
So
April is in there.
That starts in December.
We have a number. So
you could move you could move them on the basis of exception. If there's no exceptions, then items, whatever it is, be accepted.
There's 5 QBRSs. I did count correctly. So unless there is any exceptions, do I have a mover to consider them all as one motion? So Member McKibben that way, Member Gullifer has seconded that. Any discussion or questions about, and Member Mahoney, you may sort of see that our cash position with the aerial program as well, because we haven't invoiced, but we have paid, I believe we've paid the contractor some of the money for aerial.
Yes.
So
yes.
when you look at the April figure on April the 30th, down to 1.18 million, there is a substantial, and I think we started in December at about 1.5 something, 1.577. That's January. As in December was 1.666. So yeah, a substantial drop in cash position. Member McKibben.
Noting that we're only just invoicing the aerial program, do we believe that we will recover all our invoiced amounts?
The history of it is, yes, that they it's only 50% of the actual work, remembering that they have all paid deposits. They can't commence the program without that 50% deposit, and they normally settle those accounts quickly.
So are we looking at, what are we looking at, 200,000?
Yes, that would be close to the number.
Well, I just remember from the comment, looking at the QBRS a minute ago, I thought it was around that figure. Okay, so we believe that we'll be able to recover all of that amount, which in some instances will be 50%. In some instances, it might be a smaller portion of the original invoiced amount.
So the General Manager does also make one other good point, that we've been using our cash for operational purposes, and WAP funding, Weed Action Program funding, has only just come in to the council, which we did note in the QBRS. With regard to your question though, Member McKibben, with regard to the bad and doubtful debts, there were a number on the books at the end of the last financial year, and some of those are PINs that haven't been paid. Some of those are outstanding aerial. Some of them may be for other reasons. And I think the General Manager at the past council meeting said we may look at one or not. Or did you publicly say that or not, General Manager?
Yes, I did. I said I'll be reporting to the June meeting on one of the doubtful debts at the June meeting.
But it may be worth having a report on
all of them.
Whether it's in confidential, but all of the doubtful debts. So because there may be individual names associated with those. So I suggest a confidential report, but on all of our doubtful debt outside of this aerial program where we've only just invoiced for the other half or thereabouts of the contribution. Does that work? So did we get a mover for the omnibus?
Yes, I moved it.
Yes. Okay. So I do have a mover and a seconder. Any further discussion with regard to our cash positions and moving those as an omnibus motion? If not, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. So item number 6 is confidential reports. And there is two reports, one notice of rescission, and as has been highlighted, number 8, quarterly budget review statement, some more detailed information. Now, resolved to move into confidential is the recommendation, and the reason section 10A2 little a, personal matters concerning particular individuals other than councillors, and section 10A, capital A2, little e, information that if disclosed prejudice the maintenance of law, including Privacy and Personal Information Act. So do I have a mover to move into closed council? Member McKibben and Member Gulliver. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.